Fuck it.
Welcome to Game of Nodes, a weekly podcast on the cosmos from independent validator teams.
Hello and welcome to Game of Nodes, a weekly podcast on the cosmos from independent validator teams. And yeah, once you see it, that weird doppling effect between Noel's headphone and his head really is it's like, you know, does anybody remember the film Stargate? You know, when it's kind of like that weird liquidy 90s special effects where they were trying to like it's kind of like a weird water effect.
It's like an aura.
That doesn't do it justice. I loved that effect whenever it came out. I was like, wow, that is so inspired.
I mean, it's a good film. Yeah, I think Stargate, I haven't watched it in years. Does it hold up?
I think it does. Not super well, but it's like, it's very much in vein of the classic 80s action flicks that it was trying to like invoke them. I think it holds up. But I like the idea of Stargate more than I do like a Star Trek, which I know is a really hot take. So
that is quite a hot take, given that, I mean, because Star Trek is like wholesome space communism, and Stargate is kind of like, we sort of just like wandered through a gate and then triggered a war, and now we're going to kind of just get involved. We're actually really useless because everybody else is like way more powerful than us. So, you know, we'll give it a try. But we've just sparked it into stellar war. Sorry, everybody. Like, but then I guess that's kind of how things do turn out in real life. Like, things get screwed up. Though there is that whole weird thing where they're just like, yeah, we've just got like rifles, and those guys got laser guns, but their armor is like weirdly completely penetrable by 5.56 NATO ammunition. And that's just like, and then they even get the P90, and they're like, but it's pistol ammunition, but it's high velocity, designed to penetrate the body armor that terrorists would be wearing, which is why it's in police use, which is why we're using it, because we're like cool and stuff. And you're like, yeah, they're armored aliens. I'm not sure any cool German Heckler and Koch, German firearm is gonna. Just because it's cool and experimental, it doesn't mean it's going to defeat alien armor that's like designed to stop lasers. But
their armor also is like from the shoulders up, right? Like there's very little actually guarded. They've got like it's like a belly shirt type of armor though, right? For most of them.
Oh yeah, because it does that weird thing where it like folds up into like a hawk.
Yeah.
And then they're just like wearing sandals.
Can we rename this episode?
Like, just shoot their legs.
Can we rename this episode "Belly Shirt Armor"?
What's the? I just as soon as I got to shoot the legs, I'm just remembering. You know the scene in Die Hard when Hans notices. Glass. Yeah, she's in den Fenster, and then the German guy doesn't understand, so he repeats it in English. It's just like, yeah, that. It's not even a continuity error. That was what the screenwriters thought was a good idea.
Awesome. Yep.
Die Hard. It is a good film, though. It's a good film.
The depth of Stargate knowledge. Now I got to go back and start watching this again.
SG-1 was good for a while. It genuinely was.
Yeah.
I remember, like, as a kind of like schlocky TV series. I mean, it was no like Battlestar Galactica, but it was good. And I mean remake Battlestar Galactica. Hot take. Remake, obviously better than the original. I'm not even sure that's a hot take, actually. That's probably not a hot take at all.
I was going to say, yeah, I think that's agreed upon. I've been wanting to watch the most recent Stargate series, Stargate Universe or something like that. Apparently, that's whenever it went over from the Sci-Fi channel to like the SYFI channel, the Sci-Fi, where, you know, sci-fi shows go to die, basically. And apparently it's grittier or something. I don't know.
SG-1 didn't have MacGyver in it.
Yeah, it did.
Is that who it was? Is that Richard Dean was running that?
Yeah, he was in it.
I remember that.
You know, I watched a few episodes of Stargate Atlantis, and it wasn't even that bad. Like, I mean, it wasn't like, again, it's like a definition of what's bad. Like, kind of watchable if you're, God, I don't know what age it would have been, like early 20s, and it's a Saturday and you're hungover. Yeah, acceptable sci-fi for a hungover Saturday. Imagine, God, I can't imagine having like 3 hours to piss away watching 5 out of 10 sci-fi now. It's got to be 8 out of 10 or above, critically recommended by 2 or more people I respect. Otherwise, I'm like, I just don't have the time, my man. I can't help you there. Yeah, do want to rewatch the original Stargate.
The movie, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of like. I just have this like warm feeling towards it without actually remembering whether it's any good. And I just want to have my dreams crushed. That's the thing where we are with Stargate.
All right, here's my take for that. Have you seen The Abyss? I'll just start with that.
Yep.
An underrated film.
Okay, so if you've seen The Abyss then, and then you saw it like more recently, you'll basically have the same take. Like there isn't a lot of like nostalgia holdover for it. It's just if you enjoy it like 10 years ago, you'll probably enjoy it just as much now. I count them about the same level of enjoyment. I don't know why, but that's where it comes.
Good. I rewatched fucking Hunt for Red October recently. That also holds up. It's amazing. It's a great film. The bit at the beginning where they're just talking in Russian, and you know that Sean Connery can't keep it up for long, and he's speaking Russian with a Scottish accent, and it literally just zooms in on his mouth and then zooms out, and it does something like that, doesn't it? No, it's not even that. It's they're talking and they're in the wardroom, and just mid sentence they just switch. I think he says like "da." It says like "yes," and then the commissar goes "yes, Captain," and and that's it. We're out. We're in English for the rest of the film, and you're like, beautiful, seamless. I barely noticed.
I guess we're not reading subtitles anymore.
Exactly. We just ran out of energy on that whole thing.
That's it.
But we watched that film. We rewatched that film a little while ago, and it was around the start of hostilities in this recent push of Russian offenses in Ukraine. And the problem is there's like 3 times during the Hunt for Red October where they sing the Russian national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like the iconic one where there's all the sailors singing it. And then Sean Connery's like, let them sing. And like, I would be like walking around the area where I live, just humming to myself. And then like I get like an elbow in the ribs from whoever I was with, and was just like, you just humming the Russian national anthem. And I'm just like, oh, let them sing. And they're like, you're gonna get beaten up. Like you can't. There's a war on.
I swore I heard singing.
Yeah, exactly. For a second there.
Wait, hold on. Now maybe this is a bit political, but now I need to know. Does Britain not also have like a really strange section of your political area that's like pro-Russia right now? Because in the US, there's like a pretty big part that's like, obviously Russia's doing the right thing.
In the UK, most like town halls and things are flying the Ukrainian flag. Like, as in, it's very common. Like, it's very, very, very common to see Ukrainian flags flying in public places, like officially. And there's actually quite a big Ukrainian expat population in the UK of one kind or another, I think, as well. I mean, like when I was growing up, I knew a Ukrainian lad in my class and stuff like that. I don't know if that's like indicative of the entire UK, but I feel like there are a fair few Ukrainian people around, and people are generally. So I think there's 2 things going on. I think there's like, I think the British ruling class have like let in a lot of Russian oligarch money, and I think they're pretty cozy with especially the Russian oligarchs, and they own a lot of English stuff, a lot of stuff in England and Britain. But I think the average person on the street is quite anti-Russia for maybe like kind of latently for historical reasons. But then, it's like, the Simpsons joke where Lenin like punches his way out of the tomb and it's like master class capitalism, and then all the tanks come out and stuff, and it's just like, we thought you guys were the good guys now. I think that kind of Simpsons thing has played out, and now people are just like, they were the bad guys all along. So I don't think people have any beef with Russian people, obviously, because it's not about that. But I think people are like, obviously Russia is like invading Ukraine, and that's not cool. And not a big fan of the Russian government.
That's good. I have a couple of family members that are pretty convinced that Ukraine is the aggressor. So that's always fun to deal with on like Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's a shit take, really.
It is exactly.
It's wrong.
It's just a shit take.
It's like, why are you punching yourself in the face?
Yeah, exactly right.
That is a shit take.
Well, anyway, yeah. I had a friend who had done a lot of touring in Russia and had quite a lot of The only person I can think of actually was a Scouse lad I used to know who was very pro-Russia in a really weird way. And I remember when Ukraine first got invaded and there was like Eurovision was on, and everybody on Twitter was just being like, "Oh, this is awkward, the country invading the other country," and he was just like, "It's not an invasion. There's actually a lot of," and you're just like, "Oh, okay." This is the only person I know. The only other person I know who said something similar to that. I'm pretty sure it was a Russian spy. So there's also that. And that is a whole. That story is honestly too long to recount. But I once met a Russian spy. I'm like 95% sure that she was a Russian spy, and very, very, very. Ukrainians and Russians. We're all the same people. We're all the same people. It's all overblown, in my opinion. Okay, cool. So that was. Anyway, welcome to Kingnodes, a weekly podcast on the cosmos from independent validator teams, and we won't be telling the Russian spy story. So I think there is a less exciting bit of drama from the cosmos this week, which Schultzy, you were going to bring up. Is that right? I haven't looked at the spreadsheet. I'm flying dangerously, not even looking at the spreadsheet.
You're bringing up all nodes / Jacob drama already. This is pretty early. I need like at least another 8 minutes to let it simmer.
Well, I mean, we can just talk about more
Stargate
films
again?
that I've watched in the last. I mean, I watched a great documentary on contemporary Australia the other day. It was called Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I gather that's basically. Is it the follow-on to Wake and Fright? They go looking for the Yabba and they just find that oil refinery place in the desert.
I thought it was the prequel to Finding Nemo.
All those things can be true.
Yeah.
Wait, okay, hold on. No, sorry, I'm not sufficiently memed. You're going to have to explain that one to me.
Finding Nemo. Have you not seen Finding Nemo? Well, you probably know it.
I'm aware.
You will soon.
Raft.
Okay. Okay. Well, here's another hot take
right? There's at the beginning
There's
of the fish, and he gets lost, and at the end, the fish gets eaten by a dentist. No, escapes from a dentist.
Yes.
Right.
But it like
some stuff happens in the middle, mild peril.
Basically, Sydney is like used a lot, right? 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney, or something like that. And just the relation to Australia. But my hot take is that I think Finding Nemo is one of the most rewatchable movies. I've probably seen it 100 times. My nephews used to watch it basically constantly, and it's still entertaining. I can watch it now. If they put it on, I'll just watch the entire thing. I'm totally satisfied just sitting all the way through it.
More rewatchable than Master and Commander. That is a heavy claim. That's a heavy claim. Is the street actually called Wallaby Street?
Wallaby Way.
Wallaby Way.
Yeah, I think it's 42. Hold on, I need to pull it up.
That's weird. In Wallace and Gromit, their house is on West Wallaby Street, isn't it?
I think it's a nod.
The beloved British cartoon / no, it's not cartoon. Is it? It's stop motion animation.
I don't know if I'm proud or not that I actually got a spot on 42 Wallaby Way. Well, I wasn't kidding when I said I've probably seen it 100 times.
So if you watch Finding Nemo 100 times, you get to 42 West Wallaby Way every time without even blinking.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So,
but now, no, I can bring up. I can talk about the all drama.
Have you had
back to drama?
Yep. It's simmered a little bit. I had to prepare.
We've had a bit of simmer.
So. Okay, I guess here's the scope of the drama. There's always been undertones of like aggression towards white labeling for validators in the cosmos, right?
Yep.
Where white labeling, the idea is you as an infrastructure provider will run the actual node hardware for for someone else to like be the marketer for, more or less. It's kind of a decent way to put it. One example of this, you could argue that like Steak Like Mo was white labeled because like he didn't have any actual involvement with the validator itself. He just kind of was the face of the validator, whereas he had a different entity effectively running his validator. I wouldn't really consider him quite white labeling, but that's the idea. And so recently it came out that all nodes has something like 40 or 50% of the voting power over the Luna Classic chain. And I think about the same amount on the new Luna chain. And the way this works out is it's spread across a bunch of different validators that haven't announced that like someone else is actually running their nodes, but someone was doing like node analysis, and they found that there's like half of validators all sitting behind like 5 sentries. and then they traced those validators back to all nodes. And the argument of whether white labeling itself is bad or not is one thing, but what really kind of drives the point home is that all nodes actually keeps the private key of the validators. So like the thing that actually makes sure they're signing, and it also keeps the seed phrase of every node that they white label for. And that includes other things outside of the Cosmos. It includes their Ethereum validators, includes all of their validators.
Do they publish that last piece, or where did that last piece come from that they said? I know that was talked about, that like they own all the keys or they have all the wallet keys, but is that like confirmed or what?
It was talked about in the, hold on, what's the chat called? Terra Founders chat, I want to say. Terra Foundation League? Terra Rebirth League. It was talked about in the Terra Rebirth League chat.
Terra Rebirth. Okay.
Yeah.
Was it their CEO that confirmed it? Something like that?
That I don't know. I'm only, like, I'm in that chat, but I don't pay too much attention to it. I've seen screenshots of it. I don't know if it was specifically the CEO, because I don't know who the CEO was. Yeah. I think there's someone named like Johnny or something like that. Not that that helps any. But my understanding is it was confirmed that they do, in fact, have the seed phrases and the private keys of all the validators. And obviously that means that they're, in a sense, they're compromised, right? If the CEO wanted to do some sort of hostile act, they could like pull all commissions, or in a sense, they could basically not allow people to actually access their validator.
Yeah.
And we do know that seed phrase isn't necessarily given out to people they're white labeling for. So in effect, they are just running their own validators under a different name.
But so that last piece, does that mean they're voting for them?
That is correct. They're voting for them. That's how that came out, because several of I think part of how it came out is someone was talking about they were not able to vote even though they've been in the active set for like 2 months or something. They're like, hey, we need our seed so we can actually like vote.
Yeah.
We're not, like, you haven't given us our seed yet, so we can't vote.
That's fucked. So back to the first piece around having
that bit is because there's a whole bunch of things where you can go, is that the worst thing in the world? Is that the worst thing in the world? And we'll pause on an opinion on that for a second. And then you're like, oh wait, they didn't even have the ability to make a wallet that represented that. I mean
that's a true.
That's not really white labeling though, is it? At that point,
that's not white labeling, right?
That is just pay to play, isn't it? It's something that's not white labeling. It's something that is. I think that is just Sybil as a service, isn't it?
Yeah, because I'm guessing the initial stake and everything else was from whoever those customers are, right? Because they had to probably buy in to get to the set, because Allnodes is not doing that. So they're in essence running the infrastructure. I'd be curious to know what the financials are of this. I'd be interested to really know what the financials are of those arrangements. But
yeah, I mean the thing is like Todd just said in the chat, this takes it from the users having full custody of the validators having full custody over their tokens to now the service has full custody, and that's kind of like breaking a pretty, honestly, a spoken contract of running validators. Now you're talking about like the people inherently that are delegating to these compromised validators. That contract between the validator and the delegator is kind of broken. That contract of trust, and in my opinion, of I don't know,
at least who you think you're delegating with, right? Because you're actually, literally all those people are delegating with Allnodes is really kind of the idea, right? So they have full custody of the keys and everything else associated with that. It's interesting. The governance thing is really, everybody gets all wrapped up around the governance because of that component. So if they're just like, hey, tell us how you want to vote these shares, and they vote them, that's one thing. If they're not even like, if they're not responding to their own customers' requests on governance votes, that's pretty goddamn ridiculous. That's crazy.
And so as things do in the Cosmos, this came to a head with Jacob Gedikian bringing it out into the public. And I guess at this point, as of today, he has been rejected from the Lunacy. There's some DAO that he's been basically kicked out of because
for bringing this up.
For bringing it up. Yep. Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
Was it the bringing it up, or was it the way in which it was brought up?
That's fair. Yeah, probably the way, because part of their statement was like, part 1, Jacob is exiting DAO. Part 2, everything Jacob has said, we don't necessarily believe his words are his own. So
and then they do the research and go, oh shit, this is happening.
Yeah. I'm
curious what you said before, like they're running 5 proxies and have a bunch of signing nodes behind that. How the fuck are they doing that? I thought that was 1-to-1. I thought you can't have one. Can you have one sentry communicate with multiple Horcrux structures? You can't.
They're not using Horcrux.
What would they use?
So they just have 5 Sentry servers and then a bunch of validator nodes.
Oh, like
behind
one
the
to one,
sentries.
just like you can't have one Sentry communicating with multiple signers, can you?
Sentry just shares peer information, right? And so Sentry is just kind of like a layer of indirection. So
you're talking like
private peer.
Oh, you're talking like old school, like the actual private peer and like separate So they're running validator nodes. They're not running signers. They're running validator nodes, and they're just communicating. And they have a private network internally that's for
architecture.
That makes sense.
Like 18 months ago, 2 years ago, state of the art.
That is some efficient.
Yeah, exactly right.
that is some efficient fucking sibling right there. That's a pretty good idea.
The accepted the accepted security model, which everyone shoved down your throat when you started in Cosmos. Which
I forgot about that, but that actually that architecture makes a lot of sense for the sibling structure. So kudos to them about running a shitload of sign. That architecture totally makes sense in this situation. Like that's perfect. Like that's really smart. And I was like, how the hell did they do that?
I love the way, like, as soon as it was like, we need a word for this. It's like a Sybil node architecture. Then Todd's block pane was just in the chat.
That's so
like,
funny.
No, it's called full custody. That's literally the technical term. And it was like, oh yeah, of course there would be. That is actually the term. It's not a Sybil architecture.
All right, I'm not impressed with the overall situation, but this architecture of what they're doing illegally totally makes sense. Like this is a highly approved architecture for this.
Wait. Is this illegal? Is this illegal? Like with
I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
Allegedly
frowned upon.
Allegedly, usurpers call the FBI. Allegedly.
Well, I mean, I think there's a funny thing about this where like the question becomes: is the actual network then behind those sentries? Because I think they have more than 50% of the voting power. So that means those sentries are dividing like the darknet versus
Jesus Christ.
like the actual
so
Luna
wait,
Classic.
all nodes is Luna Sea.
Yeah, basically.
From a very real legal perspective.
Basically, yeah.
The true king of the shitcoins.
How did a network end up with greater than 50% Sybil power?
That's fucking crazy.
Boggles the fucking mind.
Okay, Rama said it on Lunacy, it's like 60%. Okay, so even
wow,
more than
that's fucking insanity.
Consensus power.
That's amazing. So 60% is run by all nodes, all behind this same infrastructure, all at Hetzner, right? I think somebody came back and said they're all at Hetzner, right? Or I think that was a Jacob structure.
So big.
Yeah, me either. That's
all
crazy.
nodes is huge.
Why? And for the people who are all nodes customers, did you know this was the structure before you got involved in this? Because you don't have to be in the Cosmos too long to actually look at a white label contract and say, oh shit, I own nothing here. Right. So like, I'm curious on who those groups are. And if they walked into that knowing, oh, this is the situation that we're going to get, or they signed a contract blind and then they're bent over or something. It's a really, I mean, you guys would agree, right? Like if you saw that situation, if you're in the Cosmos for more than a week and recognize that you want to run a node, but you have no custody of the wallet keys, you have no custody of the node itself. Wouldn't you walk? Like, it's pretty crazy.
Why though, right? Like if you don't have the skills to run the validator, but you want to run a validator and you use your marketing chops to run the validator, it's still a good deal for you, right?
Maybe,
because
depends on I guess it depends on what they're charging, because there are a lot of white labels in the Cosmos. There's a ton of them, right? And you could Google Cosmos white label and you can come up with a dozen different vendors that are offering nodes in those types of situations, even like Bison Trails and shit, right? Like in that old situation.
Whoa, didn't they get bought out and then it was all a bit weird? Yeah,
Coinbase. I don't think they might still do that. They used to. I mean, they did that in the Helium side for a long time. So
they still do. The funny thing about that is Bison Trails actually owned a lot of Lunacy originally, and that's part of where this issue came into be, because they ran a bunch of nodes and they just signed all of them off whenever Luna forked, and then that made all nodes basically gain control of the network.
And Todd just said at least they'll give the keys over, which I didn't know. So that's one thing. So basically, they both have the keys, right? So I guess that goes against what you said before about them not being able to govern, though. And Coinbase Cloud, which is Bison Trails, usually will not. That's right. I've heard that too. Like they own the whole infrastructure, and basically you're just a customer, like as a SaaS type of idea. Meanwhile, Null is just changing backgrounds. Are you in this conversation, or what are you doing over there?
I was looking at the All Nodes website. It's pretty cool.
It sort of reminds me of, like, in general, I'm just always surprised by the size of some of those huge providers. Like I think it's Block Demon. Like they were the ones I think got up on stage at Gateway in Prague last year, and they were like, okay, I'm not I'm just gonna like be a bitch and just be like, they're basically like, we're Billy Big Balls blockchain. We own bigballsblockchain.com. Newsflash, they didn't. They lied about that.
Who said that?
Like we're just like the best and everything. And then what's funny is like obviously like Cosmos is like some pissant tiny ecosystem compared to Ethereum. Fine, whatever. But they did double sign, you know, like literally the other day, like won't say the company was talking to an account manager for a thing, and they were like kind of doing the sales part of trying to impress you, and they're just like, oh, something block Demon. And I was just like, oh yeah, they double signed in our ecosystem. And they're like, what's that? And I was like, basically cost people money through a mistake, you know, but actually, you know, it's a mistake maybe we can all make. So me being facetious about it is maybe actually just like heaping problems on my own future self. And this poor account manager's like, sorry, what? And I'm like, oh, well, so like double signing, right? So what happens? And they're like, well, okay, so we were going to tell you about this product. And I was like, no. So it's very right. So there are two parts to a Cosmos validator, right? And so have you got a pen?
Have you got a pen?
And they just said something about connection issues, and then they dropped off the call. I don't know why. I've been trying to rearrange it, but they don't know what happened there. But yeah, they were trying to impress me. But before that, we had that unfortunate connection issue. They were trying to impress me by mentioning Block Demon.
Amazing. I know yeah.
This is a pretty good website. Like these guys have got this stitched up.
What,
like,
y'all know?
They got a good website. They spent $1,000 on a website, so they must be great at.
No, it's so captive. Like if you go like that, so they've just done a good job at like making it captive and giving you options. So like they've got all these networks that they're running, right? They must have fucking 1,000 people working for them. But the prices are like in some cases up there in a bear market. But if this was like a big bull, like, you know, to have a full hands-off approach, it's like big balls blockchain, it's not bad. And but when you go into the networks, right, it's got the first one up there is actually, it's got two options. It says you can stake now or host now. You click the host now button, you go and create a validator, right? But then if you click the stake now, it actually takes you to like a staking page, which is captive in their website. You connect your wallet and you stake through their website. So they don't let you out at all. There's no external links. It's pretty well done if you're like catching users anyway.
Well, I think they're one of the biggest Ethereum providers for validators, so they can afford it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so like the node, $720 a month for a Cardano node.
$480 a month on the basic for a Osmo node plus advanced plan of $140 an hour, I think, or $570 an hour for enterprise plan. I don't know what those differences are.
What is that? Is that you get your keys for that?
For the 570. For the 570, you can vote.
What happens if they double sign you?
I'm sure they have some control. I'm sure there's insurance on this, right? So
is there any mention of it? Because like a traditional insurance provider obviously isn't going to give you fucking shit. And as if all nodes have got, I guess double signing penalties aren't that massive, are they? I mean, they are. They suck, but like they're not, you know, colossal if you're a company with a few mil in the bank, especially at today's prices.
Right. Yeah.
But
$380 for a Juno node.
What, $380?
$360. I'm not sure what the advanced plans add because that adds another $700.
That's pretty cheap.
Or something. $360.
Cheaper than your AWS, brother. Move it over.
I mean, honestly,
you can snark all you like. Those nodes aren't on AWS anymore, motherfucker. You should pay more attention rather than just being on your visit to the zoo.
There is an option to migrate a node. Yeah, I know you moved.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the migration. They run a shitload of nodes, though, man.
They are the number one provider on stakingrewards.com by a defining margin. Like they have $2 billion in staked value. The next one is $1.2 billion.
Wow.
Don't advertise that shitty fucking website, bro.
But is that that? I wonder if that's their numbers, right? I'm wondering if they're talking about all of their. I assume that's all their customer nodes, right? So it's not. I would imagine so. It's not really a fair fight, right? Because they're basically a sybil.
Because they're sibling every single network.
Our sybil's worth $2 billion. Yeah. Hey guys, just FYI, you can get a passage node for $360 a month. So I know you guys are going to run right out.
I mean, we are making big bucks on Passage right now.
Huge
Network
alpha.
is definitely GMI. So, invest now. Invest now.
Well, I mean, minting extra blocks, you could do that on a fucking Raspberry Pi. So
yeah, it could. Well, no, but Passage
0TX box.
Does Passage have WASM enabled? Because if it has WASM enabled, then you can't run it on a Raspberry Pi.
I don't
know, actually.
I don't know. It's only a problem when they make a WASM transaction, right?
I mean, that's true. You could get one of those blades when they come out and try and make a 19-inch rack full of Raspberry Pis.
Man, those blades look fucking slick. I love Pi clustering.
Me too.
It's just sick.
Pi clustering is awesome.
Yeah, there's even just some little trays you can fit five nodes in.
100%.
Nodes. Yeah, Pis in. I love them. I see them, I'm just like, oh, that's fucking cool.
You can't get the fucking
I
Pis.
don't need that at all.
You can't get the Pis though. Like they're so back ordered. Or at least they are here in the US. I know elsewhere there's a little bit more. But the back even the CM modules are back ordered because I was looking at because they have boards like you were talking about, Noel, that has like maybe 4 or 8 nodes, but it takes the compute module, but you don't have the whole Pi. You just like stick each card in there on like a PCB of some sort. Like that's awesome. Like in a 1U with like 8 of those things shoved in there with a couple network cards in the back. That's awesome.
I just sold a Raspberry Pi for. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's this one tray. It's got like a little LCD screen for all of the 5 Pis, and it's got like little fucking USB holes. It's so cute.
Yeah, you should go look at Jeff Geerling on YouTube, who I think is awesome.
Yeah,
you ever watch that guy?
That's where I get all my Pi information.
From Jeff. He's a good dude. Like
that's the blade. That's where the blade thing comes from, isn't it?
He tests all those, and they send him a bunch of those. He's just like he's a good engineer, and like he's a fun dude. So go watch him on YouTube. He's great to watch.
I have some friends that used to work for the Raspberry Pi Foundation, and there's a lot of it sounds like a strange organization.
Yeah,
but a cool computer.
Did you say that you sold one recently for like a gold bar?
Yeah, more or less. I sold it for over double what I bought for it like a year ago.
Dude, I would have taken that.
Wow.
Is that the most impressive trade this year then from one of us?
Could be.
Oh my god.
I don't know. I had a pretty impressive trade last year going through my fucking Coinly where I can't find where $3,000 came from.
I had one spectacularly bad trade that was so bad our company accountants were like, "Oh, that's great. That's a good loss to write off." And I was like,
perfect.
Well, I would have preferred to have made some money. And they were like, well, yes, but at least this way, it's a loss in a way that we can work with. And I was
if you're going to lose, you lose large.
They're like, if you're going to lose it in a way that's very clearly documented and is not a capital gains loss, but is an income loss, because then you can put it on. Yeah, exactly. Capital gains.
How did you get an income loss?
I can't even remember. I let's just put it this way.
That is it.
Nope, he's frozen.
He was so upset. He
just
froze.
So upset. He's frozen. He's literally broken Australia.
Some sort of koala bit the cable.
Oh, the Starlink's been pretty sketchy lately. Fucking Elon.
So I realize we literally have managed to derail that off of Cosmos again a little bit, but is it the what's it, confluence of the spheres, whatever the fuck it is from The Witcher? I was trying to make a reference there. It's died. Fuck it. We're moving on. Is it Burns Night and Australia Day on the same day? It must be. Is it Australia Day today? Oh no, wait, it's tomorrow. Yeah. You're in tomorrow, aren't you?
What is it?
It's the 26th for you.
It's the 26th.
Is it Australia Day?
Well, how about it's Australia Day right now?
So on the 26th. So Burns Night was yesterday for you.
Yeah, so but it's still the same time in UTC. So
you've got a whiskey hangover, and now you need to immediately start drinking Castlemaine. My go-to reference of an Australian beer, VB.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to go for a swim in the zoo later on, so I don't know that it's a good idea to start drinking
with the animals.
What do a River Phoenix?
Sure. I don't know what the fuck that is, but let's do it.
Well, didn't River Phoenix drown swimming the Mississippi River while drunk?
Really? That's what happened?
Isn't that correct? No. Oh, no.
Are you thinking of...
I think of Jeff Buckley.
You're thinking of Jeff Buckley. Yeah. They were recording, and he went out afterwards and literally swam the Mississippi. He drowned, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you
I
River
literally
Phoenix-
don't have a.
people will have
Fucking clue what you're
remembered
talking
if
about.
River Phoenix drowned in a river. They'd have been like, River,
Yeah.
unlucky for some. That's what they'd have said. That's what they'd have said.
Did River? I don't want to say he OD, but did he OD?
That's what
I'm
I was
gonna-
under the impression of.
I'm
Yeah,
going to go to
I thought.
Wikipedia.
Yeah, you're thinking of Jeff Buckley. I know Jeff Buckley died. It drowned in the Mississippi. I remember that because it was like I think it was like late night or something similar to that, and he ran out or something. Yeah, and he just got swept away, and that was it.
Yep, that's an OD on cocaine and heroin, a mixture commonly known as a speedball.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
in L.A. or something similar to that. I think.
There's a lot of mention of speedballs in the book mentioned on the previous episode of the podcast, Homicide by Paul Simon. Paul Simon, what am I doing today? David Simon. David Simon who wrote The Wire, not Paul Simon who wrote Graceland. What is wrong with
Close.
you today?
We could really. They're almost the same people.
I'm just like 95% to the right answer,
just a
but
fine
so
line.
wrong at the same time. It's a fine line.
It's still a stupid.
It's such a fine line between stupid and clever. Yeah,
It's just
clever.
a little turnabout.
I love
You're
that
welcome.
You prepared that. You prepared that.
I
in
did.
advance.
I was hoping it would come up today.
Have you prepared a Twitter? What is it? Your Twitter quote of the week? Have you prepared one?
Your
for
drill
this week?
tweet.
Unfortunately, my
quick.
drill book
Is
is
at a different
over
location?
1,000 kilometers away from where I am right now.
Fucking with the program.
How perfect is it that a book of digital tweets that are available everywhere at all time is 1,000 miles away from you, so now you can't pull up a drill tweet.
It's pretty unfortunate, really.
Somehow it went from digital to analog to digital, but you can't make it happen. Are you doing search? I think he's doing a search on drill tweets.
I was just checking. I was going to attempt to quote my favorite one from memory, but then I was like, I chickened out. So I was like, "So long, suckers! I rev up my motorcycle and create a huge cloud of smoke. When the cloud dissipates, I'm lying completely dead on the pavement."
There you go.
That's it's not an original to have that as your favorite drill tweet, but I think it sums up almost everything that is great about drill. But yeah, there's also a new drill book which I need to go and read, or newish. I think it's called The God Method: How to Become God, something like that. Answers in the chat, but it sounds great. Can't wait to read it. Once I finish this history of the privatization of the military, I'm going to read the drill book.
How do you fit in with all these documentaries you're watching?
Oh, lots of documentaries. Yeah,
Lots of
got another one lined up, Matt. It's called Beyond Thunderdome. I think it's about current Australian government economic policy, something like that. Tina Turner's in it, weirdly. Never heard of it before. But, you know.
Weird.
Why would you be reading a book about Australian politics?
So you admit
Guys,
that
That
is
just
Australian
blew. Did you see what happened there?
So we
Just
admit
went
that is Australian politics.
straight over Nels. He was just like, either he's complicit in the joke or it's so straight over his head.
I'm looking at other things. I was actually just looking at. I don't know. I've rehashed all of my nodes lately, and
You've hashed
man, they are. No, I've
You
just
did what?
I've like rearranged how I have them all arranged, if that makes sense. And like how I operate the actual node itself, like I've changed to using, because we're on Horcrux, I've changed to using RAID 0 and everything with four NVMe drives. Man, these things are fucking humming.
Mm-hmm.
They are going really well now.
Are you doing that
So
with
I was gonna.
like even fast chains like
RAID
Say
0.
or even Evmos is pretty quick, right? Are you doing that with those two
Yeah.
and like seeing less misses and everything?
Yeah, my misses are really good. Have been for a while, but yeah, man. the-frey, I want to know how your experience has been getting away from AWS into the world of degeneracy.
That's easy. Like, we run remote signers, so all you do is you trash the old. You bring up a new node somewhere else, connect it, sync it. Thank you, Polka Jew. And then
Did you
when you're
go?
happy,
You
you
went
can
with
switch
the.
through.
Did you go with? Did you have to rewrite all Ansible scripts and everything, or write Ansible scripts and everything, or did you go with someone else, or did you just do it manually, or?
we already have some Ansible. I think either forked off of Schultz's fork of Polka, or somewhere upstream it's Polka's Ansible, and we wrote. I rewrote a bunch of things to suit the way that I like the node to be set up. That's different.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
So yeah, there's like basically kept the core of the SSH hardening, because that's exactly what we do. The firewall enabling stuff, obviously, and then basically stripped out other stuff. Install and configure Cosmovisor in the way that we want. Add a system D file for that. Some other bits and pieces. And one thing that, and also we it's not really necessary, but like additionally having like two-factor auth and stuff is we tend to do that using like Google Authenticator or like a compatible 2FA solution over the SSH. So that's like we just that stuff as well. But it ended up being a bit of a faff because I forgot that when you fork something off GitHub, you can't change the visibility unless you basically trash the Git history. So there's kind of like, and I think in our company one, there's like a fork, which is like when we just need to bring up a box, we have like one fork. And then when it's actually a node, we have like another one, which is almost exactly the same, but I've just trashed the Git history on it because I was really tired when I did it. I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna push a new repo, fuck it.
If you message GitHub, they'll cut the fork out, so you'll keep the history, but then you can make it private, because I've done that before.
Really?
But it does require explicitly that you message them. There's no way to do it in an automated fashion.
That's weird. I mean, it kind of makes sense that there must be some like hysterical reason for it, you know?
Yeah. Like I've done the same. Like I think I forked Schultz. I think I took your version and I've rewritten. Plus I've added all the other stuff like Aptos and all the stuff we do for Stargate's APIs and Chainlink stuff and everything else. Like it's all in there. So and plus I'm running Ansible Vault on 50% of those files, maybe, because it might be not necessarily secrets, just like just some server addresses or other types of things. I might be running HA proxy or something I don't want to put out there. So then I always get worried about fucking checking in a non-vaulted file just on accident. And so it'd be nice to take some of that private, even though, I mean, I want to respect the work that was done because all that kicked it off for me. So, but I've changed so much of it just because, you know, like I have nothing to contribute back. That's my issue, is because me putting all these different chains on one repro is probably not the right way, but I'm so far into it. And then, like I would never do a PR back on some of that stuff because there might be some things like maybe like some setup or main type of things, but everything it's my way, right? Like same thing that Frey said, like might be specific security things that I want to do that might not make sense for you guys.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the core of like the most useful things I think in the Ansible script, and actually look, if you're a validator listening to this and you are like a bit unsure about like some basic best practice for like setting up boxes, like you should check out Polkachu's secure server setup. It's a good
to start
base for starting, which is just set up the firewall, set up correctly, ban everything that's not the exact ports you expect to be using for the current use of that server, harden your SSH configuration, and then you can add additional things on top of that if you want. So like in our case, that's like we like having 2FA, because another thing that 2FA does is it automatically stops people just like spamming. Or
what are you doing 2FA on what?
So
SSH.
So
through what?
What's that? Sorry.
Through what service?
You can set up. You can basically just use Google Authenticator to. You can set up.
There's a package for that, right? Is that what you guys are doing?
Yeah.
We don't have anything exposed, so I'm just curious.
No.
It's that 2FA is actually built into SSHD now, isn't it? Isn't it an option?
So SSHD, you can configure basically a check that will challenge people, and it I don't know if under the hood it's actually using the same password challenge.
It says TOTP, right? It's just giving you a TOTP code and you whatever you do on your phone and blah blah blah, right?
I mean, like on the phone, just use Google Authenticator, use Authy, use whatever.
Are you using application. Can you use the same code off of every server, or you are actually per server generating 2FA?
You can configure that however you want because it's just dot files.
Okay, so you can pick a secret and then that generates the same TOTP or whatever, right? Okay.
Yeah. So you can actually, if you want, you can automate it to the point of having all the config in Ansible and then actually having the file on your machine for the configuration, and then just push, and then it just bootstraps the server, grabs the file, and then the server is like, once it's done, you can only get in with the 2FA.
Yeah.
I have to say, I don't like having that file shuffled around by a automated service. So
Sure.
it does everything else, but then doesn't restart the daemon. And then you could basically jump in, make the final change, restart the daemon, and then it'll kick you out. And then you just log back in and it'll work. Or you can log back in another session before you actually restart the thing. Actually, I don't think it interrupts the SSH session, so I think you're fine. I think it's just if you ever log out, then you have to log back in, and then you'll have cocked it up. So you can just do the classic open another window and just double check it works.
Right.
But yeah,
that's cool. That's pretty useful.
Yeah, it's
a nice structure on it. Like as long as it doesn't get annoying, where like I mean, honestly, I don't know has there ever been like a SSH key, not even a RSA key, but the newer EE whatever. I forget what those things are called.
ECS 12559 or whatever.
Yeah. Has there ever been a
ED?
Has there ever been any sort of compromise? I mean, other than you losing, obviously, the private, but that's never been compromised, right? So,
no.
So really, it's one more factor on you losing the private. That's all really that is, right?
Yeah, and because it has a sort of debouncing effect as well, because you can only make so many requests in 30 seconds or whatever the configuration time is, and that's just like configuration on the daemon. So you could it gives you another way of essentially rejecting requests that come in that are unknown. But we don't do that on every server anymore, purely because we have more, as we move more stuff towards bare metal, we have more throwaway servers than we used to.
Right.
We used to rely on a lot of AWS services that kind of plug into the nodes you're running. We ran more testnet boxes. We were speculatively running more testnets and looking to run more main nets. And of course, we've come off of main nets recently as well, which were all on AWS. So those boxes have just gone. And for things like utility boxes, if a year ago, I think being at that point a lot more tired and a lot more paranoid, we'd have been looking to put 2FA on like everything. Now, if I can Ansible it, I can just trash the box. If I think there's been a problem with the box, I can just trash it, but rebuild it.
Yeah,
and it's a couple of hours of work to, for things like monitoring or whatever, point stuff at something else. So that has changed, I suppose, in terms of actually having 2FA set up and things like that.
Yeah, once you start using, I mean, honestly, like with Ansible and plus using the same 2 or 3 vendors that we have stuff in house, but when we use outside vendors, like I can get a box and a node running in like 8 minutes on any chain, like just from bare metal, whatever they give me, to running 2 or 3 Ansible commands. It's so much. And it feels good. Like there's a lot to be said for automation when it comes to that. Like having all your tools there and everything looks the same, and I know what machine I'm on and the security side. But is that it's like fucking It's a warm.
I'm always
blanket.
a bit surprised when I run the Ansible script and and everything kind of works, and then I'm like, oh, I should literally just have to install the binary, copy it into the Cosmovisor directory, and then start.
I don't even do that. I Ansible all that shit too.
Do you?
I Ansible upgrades. I Ansible just the initial. I mean, knowing that like if you're starting from the current version, it's a new box and it's going into Genesis, right? So I don't have to worry about upgrade folders and all that kind of shit. And then I run
how
with
good
upgrades.
How good is the new version of Cosmovisor with Cosmovisor and init? I bet everyone uses that now, right? Cosmovisor and init.
1.0 for life, baby.
Yeah, I'm still rolling 1.0.
I hope that never ends, because
fix it.
I'm such a 1.4 whore now. It's
Are you?
like, it's so much better. Yeah.
Why is it? What's better?
Just like the init just makes things easy. It's just one command instead of like having to type in a bunch and then copy
You mean
stuff
copying?
and know where shit.
To help copy binaries around or things like that? Is that it's helping just the automation of that?
So you just do when you're starting your chain up, like you install the binary in Cosmovisor and you just Cosmovisor init and then point it to the binary. So you just set your environment variables first and then point it to the binary, and then it'll create like the Genesis folder, the upgrades folder, the link. It'll copy the binary to the Genesis folder and just set everything up.
I think he's making the argument of 1.4 versus pre-1, not 1 versus 1.4.
Well, 1 you can't use init either, I don't think.
Really? I thought that's when it started.
No, I don't think it's in 1.
I don't even know.
All the logging issues are fixed and all that type of stuff. Like it's just a way slicker tool now. But they moved the fucking thing as well, which is kind of annoying in the repository. But I was going to say something to you, Frey, with your hardening script. If you are using, well, everyone should probably do this anyway, but if you're using OVH, they actually have some custom config in the sshd config.d folder, and it enables password authentication in there. So you need to clear that folder out of stuff as well.
You mean this? Were you talking about what we talked about with sudos?
So when you're hardening,
yeah,
when you're hardening on your node in your Ansible script, you just need to clear out the sshd _config.d of random. Did I get rugged? No, of just random conf files, because there's this 50 cloud init file which actually has password authentication yes in it. So it'll override the main default config. So when you use, even if you use line in file, or if you're using, there's actually an SSH module that you can set configurations with. It just does it in the main file. And then if it exists in that config.d, it actually overrides the main file one. So you just have to make sure you clear that out.
I have nothing on my OVH boxes on that folder. I actually just looked because that actually worried me, but I've never seen anything in there.
Same.
Etc. sshd _config.d.
Empty.
50-cloud init.
Empty.
Well, it's on every one of my boxes.
That's weird.
When I
wonder
them.
what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be bad. They should not be doing. Oh, actually, maybe it depends on what. Like, I'm running from a Debian 11. I'm using their image, unfortunately, but I'm just making changes based on drive structure. But I'm using the Deb 11 image, so maybe that's different based on image that you're pulling from.
Yeah. Well, I use the Ubuntu 20.04. So
maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just lucky because I'm on Deb.
Yeah, maybe. But
Yep.
I'll check it anyway for anyone.
I
What
just
are
did
you
that.
using, Schultze?
Ubuntu 20 as well, but it has some custom setup.
All right. Anyway, worth a check. I just noticed that one.
Good to know.
So, like, I take all the inspo as well from all of your guys' scripts, actually. Like, Usurp, you linked me to some of yours, and Schultze and Pokachu. I've taken inspo from all of those, but essentially ended up writing them all myself anyway. And that was mainly a learning thing for me because I'd never used Ansible before. So it was easier for me to learn if I actually go and write the whole thing and make all the mistakes while I'm doing it.
That's right.
So yeah, it's actually, it's so much better than doing it manually. Like, just so much better. You just, yeah.
Then you get in the other situation where if I make any change to a box, I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? Like,
why am I typing?
Why am I typing? Like, and any change that comes up, like if somebody does not follow the structure or they use like their own binary, which is sometimes okay, or if they have like a different init script or they run like setup scripts in their own repo instead of actually just doing a make install and all that type of thing. Like, I'm like, God damn it. Like breaking my shit.
I mean, I've added the make install to a lot of networks just because of that. I'm like, nah, I'm not putting up any new crap. I'm just going to throw some lines into
throw
your
a variable
file
in there and everything else.
Yeah.
Right. The only problem is you start getting to like, even like I think, I forget what chain we were just on that has a newer version of the Cosmos SDK.
Talking about say DevNet. That's what you're talking about.
Is it say DevNet? Where like some of the core commands didn't work
and stuff. Yeah.
Where some of the core commands were different. Oh, and the config is different. That's what it was. Maybe it was. You're right, Schultze. It was say DevNet, where like they moved all the config structure in the files from a dash to an underscore, so all my seds break. And then I think there was a bunch of changes in there. I think it's no longer inbound and outbound connections. It's now just the total connections, and let the node figure it out. There's a bunch of stuff in there.
They're no longer seeds. They're called like bootstrap peers.
That's right, bootstrap peers. So the seed is gone, and actually, I think those nodes even I ran an actual tender seed node, and I think the nodes rejected that because they actually wanted another actual SAID binary running as a bootstrap peer instead of a seed or something like that. It was like there's changes coming. So there might this fork might get forked again for having to manage chains that are on what is that? Is that 47 or 46 or something?
I think it's 47. I want to say it's 47.
Yeah.
Originally it was 46 back when Nevercraft was the first one using it, I want to say. And then it was pretty unstable originally. So I think it pushed back.
Yeah, I'm down for. I mean, change is cool. I'm downplaying that. It's all that stuff is good. It's just one of the downsides of automation is you gotta manage that shit, right?
I actually just realized that craft is like officially down now.
I would think so.
Finally stopped.
Well, I mean like the blockchain, like the testnet's down, but their website's actually down now. So I think that it is officially buttoned up as
Is this
no
it?
longer a thing.
Is this the first
Officially
one?
rugged. Yeah.
that actually ended
Before it began. So with your configurations, Usurper, I am going to move because I haven't done the configuration scripts yet. I know you guys use like set or line in file for all of your configs, changing the config.toml and app.toml. I'm actually going to change and start putting all of those into my systemd files as environmental variables.
I really like that idea. I was thinking the same thing. Like the only issue with that for me is like you can't just fire the binary up on its own without running it through systemd. And so you're kind of dependent on Cosmovisor and the folder structure and all that kind of stuff. Because sometimes, like if we're troubleshooting, I'll just run the binary manually because I want to be able to be live and be able to kill it, and I don't want to tail shit out and everything else. But the idea of being able to ignore the config and run it all through like passing variables in on systemd is actually pretty. It's pretty strong for automation versus like setting out the file and everything.
Yeah, setting the file's a mad pain unless you just maintain the config file locally on your. But it just makes it easier to see like what you're actually changing. So when you're trying to troubleshoot the issues with bloody on a testnet or something, you can just go, well, I've got these settings, rather than having to be like, oh fuck, this, that, and the other. So
yeah, let me know how it goes. Put that stuff back up. It'd be interesting to try that. I just didn't know if everything. We talked about this on the channel, but I wasn't sure if everything that was available was actually command line available.
It's all available as environmental variables, I'm pretty sure, because you can either set them when you call the binary in the line that calls the binary, or you can just set them all as environment variables for when you start the binary.
Okay. I'm
not sure if Cosmovisor will affect that at all, but I guess we'll
shouldn't
find
be
out.
right. You just environment variables in the systemd file. I don't think Cosmos. It's not really doing anything, right? It's just running the binary with those. That's a good question, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, because you're really passing the variable down to the binary.
Yeah, I guess they pass it on maybe because I'm not 100% sure how systemd works, but I assume it runs like in a sandbox environment because you can have. Yeah, I used the wrong word, the-frey, but you can have like 5 instances of Cosmovisor working with each with their own, environmental variables in the systemd. So what I mean is it doesn't share the environmental variables between different systemds. The-frey could probably tell us why.
Each one's run demonized, so it's run in the background.
But that's a good point because you're actually running Cosmovisor start in that binary directory, but you are setting environment variables that I assume would be only to that process. Yeah, I think you'd be able to run multiple chains on one node if that's where you're going.
Yeah, I think you could. And it's also worth saying that like the only configure via environment is very, very common as a best practice for software development. Has been for the last 5. I don't know, maybe 10 years. Like 12-factor app is the like definitive, especially if you do anything like serverless or stuff like that, or especially like stuff like AWS, like you're basically running throwaway hardware and you're passing in environment variables all the time. I mean, like this is one of the things where, like, to use that to talk about Aptos for a second, like is very, very different between we've run some stuff on bare metal and we've run some stuff using Amazon EKS, which is a very different experience. And it's because, like, obviously when you throw stuff up on EKS, you're basically just like, I would like one very, very generic validator and one very, very generic VFM, please. And then I'm going to give you effectively via environment what you should know as secrets. And obviously, the way you encrypt them and decrypt them using Kubernetes and using kubectl and everything is out of scope of this. But you're passing all of that configuration in such that the only place it actually really lives is on your laptop or the deployment box, or you can, I think, with Aptos actually configure it to be in like an S3 bucket or a Vault. but that's another way of doing it. There isn't really a concept of remote signing, I don't think. So that's the other thing. But it's very, very different to like if you're configuring a box via bare metal, all of that environment is basically just co-located somewhere on the box. It's not passed. I don't think Aptos has the same thing Cosmos does, where config file values map to environment variable values to allow you to 12-factor everything.
I don't think so. I don't even
So
no, because I think it's. I don't know if that's a. Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't think they do.
So on a different note, uni is dead. Long live uni. What the fuck is happening there, the Frey?
What's up with Uni 5?
Uni 5 app hashed after upgrade on a block that had IBC TXs and WASM calls, so that's nice. That really helps to narrow it down.
Was that the first block after the? I thought it failed
Second
at
block.
the upgrade. Oh, so it did make a
Second
block.
after the upgrade. Yeah, I think it made 2 blocks. Second block, there were price feeder calls, IBC calls, WASM store calls, maybe even a WASM execute call. And yeah, fun times. It could be a number of things, but probably fees is the one, isn't it?
Fees or feeds?
Well, global fee or
Global
Oracle are the 2 likely smoking guns, but I think global fee is the newer one. So yeah, hopefully it won't result in RIP uni, but it may result in RIP uni. Because
I hope not. I've done months of staking to get that shit evened out.
You got too emotionally invested in a test net.
so much hours and time.
It's been a weird one because it's been the first time that uni shot the bed where it hasn't been 100% my responsibility to fix it. And
how's that feel?
It feels magic. I've just had other shit to do. So, but it's really like I can recommend. I see why other people just swing into the chat occasionally and say things like, "Oh, have you tried blah blah blah?" Then fuck off again for a day. It's great. So that's really unhelpfully what I've been doing, while mainly Reese and a bit of friend of the show. And to be fair, friend of the show Jake, friend of the show Reese have largely been, I think, looking at that. And Reese has been sort of narrowing it down.
Wait, hold on. Points. We have one more call to make there. Chill Validation's been doing their part.
Oh, well,
Chili has been doing a lot upstream. Yes. So Chili actually has been doing a lot upstream in the SDK.
Yeah.
And it's that which means that Chili was aware of some similar issues on other chains, which has led to the probable smoking gun for Uni. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, Chili's great. As an aside, Chill Validation, if you want to shout out a node operator that does demonstrably good upstream work on the Cosmos SDK, there you go. Delegate to Chill Validation.
Yeah. I just want to take the opportunity to call them out because they've been great since day one.
Dude, yeah, it's definitely a worthy call out. Definitely stake chill.
Yeah, for sure. And like honestly, like what just a great guy, and like just fun to be around and has a great sense of humor and like just I don't know, big fan.
We have asked Chill to come on before, but he's not like a.
I feel like
jump on a podcast photo guy.
Oh, fuck him then.
Yeah, he's
fuck that guy. Never mind.
Does he even watch the podcast? Oh, fuck that guy.
Probably.
Never
not,
mind.
Yeah.
Fuck all that.
I don't think he's keen to be like have his face on the internet and talk shit about stuff. So.
Fair. Some would be concerned about that. We are too stupid to be concerned about that. So here we go. Let's go. Yeah, no, Chili's sick. That's why they're not on the podcast.
So, on a completely boring note, my accountant tells me that I'm going to have my fucking tax sorted out at the end of this week.
Congrats.
I'm so elated. Oh, mate.
Nice.
Did you get your...
I know you guys have already done your whole rigmarole and are already like, I'm fine.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, the conclusion for us was hilarious. It was like, well, these are all just wrong. Like, what the other... What, it's too convoluted to even explain why they're wrong, but they're wrong. And my new accountants are basically just like, we're just like, the thing the government cares about is getting paid. and our suspicion is these are wrong by such a margin. The problem is that the way everything's been filed is basically arguably fraud, but the amount they're wrong by is probably going to be 1% wrong. So you're totally fine, because as a company, especially working in a super new area, if it is like, it's not a great excuse to have to be like, the accountants definitely fucked it up. But like, if you've actually paid the right amount, they'll be like, oh well, whatever, boys will be boys. They won't quite do that, but they would just like, basically the only problem you can have is if you try and sell a company, or if you try and take out a loan, because then it goes from being like, our books were screwed, our accountants didn't have a great year, sorry, to being actual fraud. But we don't plan on doing either of those things. So it was just like, oh, okay, that's fine. They're like, you're remarkably calm about this. And I was like, I just care about paying the right amount of tax. I don't really care. Like it's like slightly, it's in category 14B instead of 14C. Like, I'm sure we can just change that. And they're like, yeah, we can just change that. I'm like, well, okay, amazing. My sense of elation has not dissipated. Thank you very much. And they're like, okay, you need to be a little bit worried. I'm like, but I'm paying you to be worried. Anyway, have a great Friday. And they're like, it's not Friday, it's Wednesday. I'm like, click.
It's Game of Nodes night. It's Friday now.
So it took a couple of accountants to get someone who agreed with the way that I wanted to do it. So
that's not how it works. You don't just get to re-roll until somebody goes, you get to pay less tax, and you're like,
apparently that is how it works, though.
So the thing is that I interpret the tax code in Australia in one particular way, right? And then there's like this thing here that if you make a best effort to like pay your tax, then, you know, if you get audited, they're not really going to fucking steamroll you. They're going to be like, we don't agree with that. And you can go, well, this is why we've done it type thing. But, you know, we were talking about it, and for starters, it is fucking impossible for me to get the transactions, right? How in the fuck is the government going to get them? So there's that problem. And we talked about it, and running back of the envelope numbers, the way we're doing it, you're roughly going to pay like a little bit more tax than what you would if you went through and like defined the whole like chain of custody of bloody tokens, right? And figured out all of the cost bases and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So, and because it's like in a high transaction environment, we estimate that we will get away with just doing it in the way that we're doing it, because it saves like so much money in administration costs that you can argue that it's just not feasible to run the business with that type of admin. So, you know, I don't know. We'll see how we go with it. I've had other accountants that were just scared of, well, you know, I've talked to other accountants in this journey to find one that I synced with, that, you know, some of them are worried that they're going to get an audit, which, you know, may or may not. But the thing is like the tax codes are like still developing, and there's room for interpretation there. So I don't think, even if we did get audited, I don't think we'd get hung out to dry. I think they'll just say, we don't agree with how you're doing it. Can you have another look type thing? So
I think here they're really, really detailed and specific, but the problem is that, like you say, it's getting data. Like it does, like they're like, okay, here is exactly what you need to do if you get an airdrop or something. And you're like, okay, great. Even I don't know how to get that data. I'm so sorry. I really, like, I'm trying my best.
That's exactly it. Like, if we can't get it, what fucking hope in hell does like a third party have of getting it? Like, we're the validators.
Well, the issue here in the US, at least, is they can determine what that value is, and it's up to you to determine that that's incorrect. So they can say that you, like, we don't know what those values are, or blah 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 blah, or we think that you've acquired X amount of assets, and so therefore this is your tax amount. And so trying to figure out how they got to that number, why that number is incorrect, showing that it's incorrect, is on the burden of the taxpayer, not on the federal government. So that's the issue here. Is I totally agree with you. Like, I can't even get, like, I'm hoping that Todd shares his Juno full node, because that's the only option I have for pulling some transactions from last year in 2022. But if I don't, And if the history of Juno is a little bit shady, at least, I mean, difficult to be able to get a full picture on, at least for our stuff. Then I have to pull what I can and like make some assumptions. And if those assumptions get questioned, then I got to fucking figure out how to deal with that. And I just don't want, and what you don't want is I want to be accurate enough to be able to move past and know that I feel comfortable that is accurate. At the same point, you don't want to be shady enough where you end up being in an audit, which then you're proving every single thing that comes out of that. So I don't know if you have the same thing in Australia.
No, I don't think so. I think they just like go through your books and tell you that you've done it wrong and ask you to do it again in a better way or whatever.
Yeah.
But so
as far as I
the way
understand
that the way that we're doing it though, we will pay more tax earlier on because we are paying tax on our holdings as well as our gains or our income from sales. So I
thought you weren't doing that.
Whatever that's what I wanted to do, and then then they another bloke came and said, no, you can't do it that way. And then I talked to other people. Who gave me the reference? Someone gave me the reference in the chat the other day of like, it's fucking, it was the Tom Cruise bloody thing where he fires his fucking safety person.
I'll put a link in the show notes. There's a video of Matt Damon talking about Tom Cruise and some safety thing or like some crazy fucking, whatever crazy movie he was in with doing stunts and all this type of shit, and he wanted to do some crazy Mission Impossible. You want to do some crazy stunt, and the safety guy said, "You can't fucking do this. You can't fucking do it." And he goes, "So I talked to the safety guy. Safety guy says, you can't do this." He goes, So I get another safety guy. It's exactly. Sorry, you just keep going from accountant to accountant to get the answer you want. So I got another accountant who says this is totally the right way of doing it. That's the secret.
Yeah, I mean that was totally the thing. It was so funny when you sent that through. So the only reason I'm comfortable doing it this way is because during COVID, Australia introduced a new rule for businesses, small businesses. You can actually claw back tax from previous years. So there is the risk that if it's a really high market and we're holding a lot of tokens, that we'll end up paying a lot of tax in that FY because of our holdings. Yeah. But then at the end, the next year, when all those tokens reduce in value, you'll have like a big loss from those tokens if they reduce in value. So then you can actually claw back tax from the previous year that you've paid on those tokens because they were high, if that makes sense. Cool. If you couldn't do that, you would have to carry that you'd be carrying the losses on your books until you sold them out, but you'd never be able to get tax back from previous years. So if you had a really good year and paid just weird numbers, like 100 grand in tax, and then the next year you lost 50 grand, well, you're never getting that fucking tax back. So,
but the 50 you can carry forward, right? Is that your situation?
Yeah, because it's because crypto is just like used cars. We're a company that happens to mint 1,000 used cars a day, and they're just only worth $1 right now. But we've got a lot of used cars, Usurper. We've got so many used cars we don't know what to do with them. But the problem is, right, these used cars, right, we'll pay tax on them at $10, right? And then things like, at the moment the used cars, they're illiquid, right? It's not important why these used cars are illiquid at the moment, but they're illiquid. So we paid a tax on them, but we can't actually do anything with them at the moment. But if we decide to actually actively start going, now we're going to sell these used cars, we can get some hot shots in here to sell those used cars for $1, which isn't suspect at all for a used car. Anyway, whatever. We're going to sell all of our used cars. We've already declared the tax value of them at the time of receipt, right? Mm-hmm. We sell all of them. We actually, it's not even like used cars because they're an asset. They're like a business asset. They're not even like we have stock, because if they're used cars, they'd be stock. But actually, they're more like the business has bought 10,000 used cars for our many middle managers. We have 10,000 middle managers who need a used car. We've got 10,000 used cars, and then the value of those used cars has gone down a lot. So we're going to sell all those used cars because we don't have any staff either, because we fired all of them. So that's a capital gains loss on all those used cars we bought. And it's not an income loss, and we can't carry it forward. We do carry it forward on our books, to be fair. But as you might have spotted, if we make
you can't carry it back.
Well, this is it. If we make £10,000 capital loss, fantastic. We need to make some money to take advantage of that. And you see, it's the making money part that's hard. Like if I knew how to do that, then I wouldn't be. If I knew how to make money, then I wouldn't be in the position of writing off such a big loss.
The funny thing is, though, in your next year as well, the-frey, you can make a income and no capital gains, and you can't even use that loss. You have to recognize everything as income.
Yeah. And because, any staking rewards we make in other ecosystems or anything, it's just straight up company income again. So we're just incurring more regular tax, and it's not. So what we would need to do basically is unstake a load of Juno or AE token and wait for it to go up in value. So wait, what we need to do, okay, let me work this out. You need to unstake a load of Juno. We need to unstake a load of Juno and then sell it at a loss, incurring let's say we sold everything we have, we incur a massive loss and we look like total schmucks. Then we need to get in on the next Solana, like super early doors, and just buy or get it somehow, whatever, and then just hold it really riskily, right? And just YOLO 100%, like, because we've already incurred the income tax as well if we do this. So we already know we owe the income tax, and then we need to try and ride it to the top and then sell it, which incurs then capital gains. But then we don't pay the capital gains because we've already lost the money. And then we go, hey, and then it hopefully all evens out, and we look like legends. Like we're like a film where there's traders and they did a great trade. Trading places. We're like Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd in Trading Places.
And frozen orange juice.
Yeah,
exactly. We're in the brownstone.
It's brownstone.
We're in the brownstone rather than getting rugged by the gorilla.
That's right. Rugged by the gorilla.
So Rama says, so you're saying I should invest as a business and not as an individual so I can claim losses. Can't do that as an individual in Australia with crypto.
You can't claim losses as an individual, is that right?
No, I was going to say that's not entirely true. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of trading as a business, you can actually...
Welcome to Game of Nodes, a weekly podcast on tax in the cosmos.
Yeah, right.
No shit, right?
I'll just go through this.
Especially during tax season.
There's a couple of different things. So as an individual, you can do high volumes of trades and actually call yourself a trader, and then you can be taxed as a trader on a stock basis. So you can actually do the same things that you can do that I'm doing in a business. It's just a lot harder to do it as an individual and actually say, like if you're day trading, you can use crypto as stock, and that's essentially what we're doing as a business. That's why we have to do a stock take at the end of the year and then pay tax on the amount of
paused.
In terms of like actually, so in terms of what you say, I can claim losses. You can't claim losses even as a business. It's just that when you're a business, you do a profit and loss statement at the end of the year rather than like capital gains and income. So income is obviously part of your profit, and your capital losses become part of your losses, and then that balances out to whether or not you made a profit and loss. Little bit different as an individual in that you have to pay income tax on your income no matter what happens with capital gains and losses. But if you are a high volume trader, you can say that that's your regular job, and those small capital gains that you make is income rather than capital gains losses. So, income and losses, like you can say that your gains and losses is positive and negative things against your income. So it's a little bit different when you're trying to day trade or when you're high volume individual trading, if that makes sense at all.
Game of Nodes is not a tax advice service, and do not take this advice seriously. Also, remember that Null talked to 75 accountants with Australia to get the answers that he wanted to be able to hear that aligned to his viewpoint on Australian taxes of crypto.
Yeah, I only listen to the things I want to hear.
So you said I don't have to pay.
I don't know. I feel like the sign of a good accountant might be the accountants that seem to know what they're talking about. And then when you go, but hang on, but I thought, and they go, no, that's wrong, and you're wrong, and here's why you're wrong, and you need to do this. And you're like, well, I am paying more, but I am reassured that these guys might actually know what they're talking about. That's kind of how I feel about ours, which maybe
that's
false
basically what
confidence.
Yeah.
That's basically what my accountant did. I was telling him what my plan was, and he was like, I can see why you think that's the plan, but I pity you that you're wrong. And I was like, okay, well.
How much do I owe you?
Yeah.
So I like when you just talk to your accountants and you bullshit to each other and muse about things until something sounds right, and then you're like, yeah, let's do that.
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
you're not horse trading with your accountants. This is somebody you pay. You're just like you're paying an expert. Like it's not like you're like, oh well, come on, just
on.
give us a little bit. I mean,
Ain't no one an expert in fucking tax. This is
Especially
like
crypto tax.
crypto
It's
tax.
all
is just
it's all
outrageous.
interpretation. It is all interpretation.
yeah, I guess it does
yeah, I
just
mean,
make
like-
you realize that like big companies that have like 500 employees or more, must have no fucking clue. Like as in even working out what they've made in a year, like looking at their stock, like knowing how many. Okay, let's say. Sorry, I don't know why we're doing this. We're a used car dealership. Even knowing the value of all the used cars on your lot, like nobody knows that. Like, so you kind of go like everybody's taxes are a best guess. Like we're all just in this kind of where everybody's management reporting is just a best guess. So we're just like all this collective delusion that we're being 100% bang on. So you're just like, at the end of the day, there's got to be a point where you kind of just go, oh, look, we tried our best. We're not trying to swindle the tax man. We just want to pay our fucking taxes, and it'll probably be fine. Is my hopeful when I put it up in front of small claims court or whatever. Like, come on, lads, we're just trying our best here. They're like, your books
Boys
are
will be
completely
boys.
wrong.
That's your defense.
Your books are completely wrong. There's not even a cursory effort to correct these glaring mistakes. And your accountants who have just been in the dock said that you said, "Oh, it's okay. We'll fix them during the year." What kind of management strategy is that? You're like,
So you can say
when
the
you put it like
accountant
that.
told me boys will be boys.
I've heard that boys will be boys. Are you telling me?
So here's an idea I've had, Frey, and this is I have to run this one by the boffins yet. But next year,
Whoa, hold on. We got to pause for a second. By the what? The boffins? What is the what?
So you know where you
boffins,
have
like
puffins.
the smart
you know,
people.
you know what puffins are? They're a small bird, seabird. Right. A boffin is just a much larger puffin from Baffin Island.
I think you're just making shit up now. Fuck with us.
It's like an English Australia colloquialism, I guess. Anyway,
Yeah,
So-
it's like it means like Poindexters or whatever.
Okay, so it's
You know,
like
smart
actually it's like a
people,
smart. Okay, got it. I'd never heard
the
the term
fucking-
before, so I was like, what are you talking about? Is that your wife? I don't know.
I have,
It's your
I have
wife's
to run
family
it
name.
by the
The
tax
Boffin
nerds,
family.
man. I have to run it by the tax nerds.
The Boffin family.
So anyway, because one problem that I can see, right, is that if I'm paying tax on the saleable value of my holdings, then I should actually be paying tax on the realizable saleable value of my holdings. So if it's got thin liquidity, I should be able to model the saleable value from the thin liquidity and say, well, I can only realize this for, this is the current price at market, yes, but if I sold my amount that I have to be able to pay the tax on it, then I would only have, say it was 50 grand, then I'd only have 20 grand. So I'm only paying tax on 20 grand. That's a theory I have. I feel like other
Good luck with
people
that.
would not agree.
Keep
I
finding
mean, I
the
don't
right
think you're
accountant.
wrong, but I also just think like, is it dodgeball? Where it's just like, let's see how that goes for him. Like,
Yeah, it's like I have this collectible asset and I want to sell it for 100,000. I can probably only get $12 for it. So
So
Yeah, people have
Come
told me
on,
it's worth
come on.
100,000, but no one has offered me 100,000. So
bold strategy, Cotton.
that's the one.
yeah.
That's it.
So anyway, I mean, it makes sense to me. I mean, the other thing is I could just sell them and then pay them the tax on the lower value that I could get for it. So why not just, take out the middleman and pay less tax? It's all about like tax minimization, right? I think if you can present a good argument for tax minimization, then they might still tell you just to get fucked.
I mean,
Yeah.
for us, it was more about like, obviously for political reasons. Like we all sold obviously during the bull run and stuff because it would be kind of dumb not to. But like, it was very easy to not sell everything and still run up a really really large tax bill. And depending on how much like liquid cash you have on hand, like the tax bill could easily have exceeded the amount of dollars you have in the bank to pay it, depending on what was staked. And also because the thing is, the money is not there anymore; it has disappeared. If you pay, and so I think, like from our point of view, it's less about what we're paying in tax and more about liquid cash. And as soon as we were sort of like, well, we're not going to go bankrupt, then we were like reassured. But it was still like, I don't know, it's been a real learning experience, this entire thing. Like, just it's that thing of like, however you think it could or should be taxed or whatever, like learning how it actually is and how that shakes out for you as a business is like it totally, we thought we were being smart and we still weren't being smart. That's the thing that last year has taught me. Like, I thought we were being really conservative and quite smart, and it turned out we were being dumb to the point of nearly shafting our business. It was crazy. And you don't see it till it's still there in black and white. And you're like,
fuck.